All right, so after a failed attempt in which my guitar wasn't even in the video, I'm redoing a video lesson for my buddy, Mr. Steve. Just talking about things that are hard to explain in text. And first, I want to just reinforce it. Overall, you're doing very well. Things that you're doing well, you're getting yourself in time well most of the time, and you're adding in some pretty interesting notes into your solos, which is hard to teach and a good way to, a good place to start from. One thing that you are suffering from in your playing is something that I call sameness. When you play, pretty much every note you play sounds the same. You will and when you add vibrato, you always add the same vibrato. It's a very it's weird. I'm watching my hands. I'm getting confused with the phone. And it's important to break out of that. I mean, you can do pretty well, playing all the notes the same if you have some interesting choices and good timing, but your goal when you're doing an improvisation is to keep the audience interested, and if you're not varying how you're playing the notes, it's really hard to do. So ways to vary notes. I mean, it sounds simple, but if it were easy, everyone would do it. With the right hand, several things you can do. So the same note, playing it just straight is fine. I like to add just a hint of palm muting into notes. It's hard to get a good pinch harmonic without an amp, but throwing in a pinch harmonic from time to time can be nice. Playing with different parts of the pick. If you pick it straight, it's going to sound different than if you come across it a little bit. I do a lot of messing around with that. One thing I do a lot is non-hygienic. I put the pick in my mouth. I'm going to put it on the table here for hygiene. But when you play with your fingers, it sounds different. And the thumb sounds different than your fingers. And you can do cool things. And then with the right hand, doing something that I'm guilty of doing too much, something called rakes, where if I want to play this note, instead of just playing that note, I'll rake my way into that note. So these are all right hand things you can do to vary. And also sometimes you play it hard, sometimes you play it soft. Now, how to create some variability with the left hand? Boy, you got great options with the left hand. Things I like to do to make the notes sound different. I like to pre-bend notes slightly. So instead of I'll do which just, changes it up a little bit. Sliding into notes. Changes it up. Varying your left hand vibrato. You throw it's hard without an amp, but you throw a hanging note, and then you kind of bring the vibrato in later is a nice technique. Having a slow, wide vibrato on some notes, a tight vibrato, on other notes, it's a good way to vary stuff. But I spend a lot of time thinking about the vibrato I'm putting on notes, which is maybe a bit weird. Other things to do is you were onto the double stop, the mini chord. So you were hitting this one a lot, and that's great. But boy, there's tons of them in the major scale. So let's say this is a D minor. That works, but you got You can pull tons of those out, and that's a great way to just adds a little variation that you didn't have before, and that works well. Bending is, bending is good. You just got to do it accurately. And little bends, they don't always have to be just a chromatics, throwing a chromatic run in. And when you, if you put down your pick, you combine other things to sound different. Just ways to vary your pick attack. And these are all things that you just incorporate into everyday playing. If you're playing a song, if I put on this, I'm bad at this, but if I can make this thing work, and you're playing a little bit of improvisation in your D minor, and you're like, staying in time with the song, and then start thinking about throwing in some muting. Throwing in some partial chords. I'm pre-bending. Some muting. Just things to change it up a few. False harmonic, don't do too many. If you're not Billy Gibbons, it doesn't sound very good to do a million of them, but throwing in some of those is a nice way to change stuff up. But just that's what I'd say. Think about varying how all the notes sound. I would slow everything down. You're getting focused on can I